and I saw you for a meal about a year ago, wasn't it? Went out for and then you picked me up in your taxi.
Yeah.
And here we are. Because I spoke to you about my podcast in a taxi, and I went, I reckon you'll be good coming in here because you've got some stories.
We'll see. But thank you. That's nice of you to say.
Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
You're looking well. And
thank you for inviting me on as well.
You've had a haircut for it as well, haven't you?
I did yesterday, actually. I've got the missus to shave it off. Because it cost me 30 quid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not paying 30. Mate,
I pay about 20 quid to get my beard done.
Hey?
Get my beard done.
20 quid?
Yeah, that's how I keep
why
it.
it's so handsome. It looks gorgeous.
That's about £100 a month on my beard.
No, it's not.
It is, isn't it? No, but you've got to do it properly.
No, get clippers. Have you got the clippers and do it yourself? Who does it then? Who does it?
Go to my guy down in Sidwell Street.
I just got
Boss Barbers.
Who?
Boss Barbers.
Boss Barbers.
You know, you've got a big long line of barbers, haven't you? My guy Sava, he's in there. But I always go to the same guy. I've been going in for years.
He just does the beard?
Just the beard, but he looks after me. Like, I get a hot towel, a head massage.
Mean?
No.
A massage?
Oh, yeah, he looks after me. It's an experience. It's not just about getting the beard done. It's the experience of going there.
Yeah.
He sets fires to my ears as well.
Right.
That's, okay.
Because I have all of that in India. They were the best parts, having your haircut.
Yeah.
For £1.
There you go.
Massage and then they make makeup, but they put cream on it and do your face.
Exfoliate. But there we go. So you mentioned Air India. We're going to touch on that as we talk. But give us a bit of a background, mate, because if you can condense it. I met you in the gym and we had a really fascinating conversation at the bottom of the stairs once.
Yeah.
And I got in trouble for talking to the customers
for an hour.
Yeah. Because you were fascinating. You had a fascinating story.
Okay. Well, it's kind of
and this podcast is about adversity, trauma, comeback. And I know you've been through some dark periods.
Yeah.
But you've also, where you are now.
Yeah. I managed always to turn it around, I suppose. I suppose one of my saving graces was I never liked getting too far. I was incredibly vain. Because believe it or not, I was fairly attractive when I was younger, when I was acting.
I've seen pictures.
Yeah. So I did a good line in Jesus for a few years as an actor. But I've always loved cooking. And I know it sounds strange, but I get a kick out of it. It's kind of meditative. I can spend an hour and a half doing a stew, and it's always got everything that is healthy for me. I eat to feel good, and I'm not like Kentucky, although I have done a few of those, but they're very rare. But so that's helped me with it. But no, I think I've always been a bit troubled. I was thinking about this today. I've always had mental health issues. Ever since I was a kid, there was something not right. I know that. It's funny because my two boys, I've got two different mums, but two boys. My younger one has struggled a bit. I see it sometimes in my older one with this ADHD and all this sort of stuff. I think probably if I'd been diagnosed, I probably would have had that. And, one of my early memories is my mum taking me to a loony bin. And I saw all these guys hanging around in their white coats and then these odd characters popping out. I was only like 12, 13. What the fuck am I doing here? And then going into an office and doing an IQ test and things like that and saying, well, there's nothing really wrong. He's a bit eccentric, but apart from that, he's all right. But yeah, I spent, my early life was Africa. Talking about your dad was in Africa. My early life was in Malawi and Botswana and places like that. And went to public school, used to board and then be flown out there and things like that. And I got expelled, and my parents split up 3 times, and I was quite posh for a while, and then I got put into a comprehensive school in Hemel Hempstead and got a shit kicked out of me, and I kind of picked up an accent, and it never left me. And it took a while I was thinking about this today in the early days when I first came out, and that my friends because we ended up in Cornwall. My mum left my dad in Africa when I was about 10, and then. We came back to London, sold the house and moved down to the southwest. And I was introduced to all these, I got involved with the local lads and they'd take me around to see their mums and that, and I was always very polite and opening the doors and please, thank you very much. They loved me like that. But I got the piss taken out of me so much that within, I don't know, a year or so, it'd all gone and all that stuff. And it's still around sometimes, I still open the door for a lady and all that sort of stuff. But all that disappeared. And then really it was, drinking for me was always early days, 16, 17, and getting into some serious situations. Drugs, yeah, mushrooms, and kind of early days of dope, probably smoking charis. That wasn't charis, it was charis and red leb and black leb and things like that. But I was like 15, 16 at that time and dropping acid.
Where's this living?
Cornwall,
Oh, right.
Liscard. And then I was around there, and we moved to Launceston. That was the last school I got thrown out of in Launceston. And then I just said, I'm not going back to this shit. It's just not for me, So I stayed around, and then I started to drink a lot, and things weren't kicking. It looked pretty ropey. I was starting to fight a lot, and I wasn't a fighter as such. I was quite slim, fairly attractive, but I got picked on a lot, and I fought back. I did anyway, So, but things were starting to get worse. I was making some stupid choices, and this girl had told me about a drama school. Now, I'd always been a bit of a performer in acting and things like that. Anyway, played a fool a lot of the time of my life. And she said, you thought about going to drama school? And I went, what's that fucking hell about? So there was a place called Signet. It was in Exeter, here. And I just went on. I didn't learn anything. I didn't know the frigging the speeches I was supposed to learn. My mum's friend gave me a book and to read from The Immortalist, I think it was. And then I had another one. I didn't even learn them. But I got into the audition and I messed up the speeches, but there was group work. And it was that got in. I mean, I was just like, this is really cool. A lot of movement and improvisation and things like that. And I was like, no, I really like this. And I ended up getting in. So it kind of saved me because I got into a serious fight in Plymouth in Union Street one night with a couple of, it wasn't a marine, it was a local guy. And it got quite serious. That was there was two real turning points in my life. One was saving my mate's life, and the other one was, the first one was this fight I got involved with. And I don't know if you've ever really got angry at any point, but I can't. You ever seen red? Literally seen red. I've seen red. That night I saw red when he hit me, and I went to town, and ended up really hurting him, and then having this reflection of if the MPs hadn't take me away from him, then who knows what would happen. I think it could have killed him, and that frightened the shit out of me. I know some people kind of big up a bit, but that threw me a bit. And I went to drama school literally on the Monday, on that Saturday. Ended up going back to court, and because I was a nobody and he was this, at that time quite a well-regarded and tough guy and whatever, that he didn't press any charges, and I got bound over to keep the peace. And I kind of thought I need to really concentrate on what I'm doing, and I was keen. And the first year I was just driven. You couldn't smoke around me, you couldn't drink around me. I had this hardcore. And at the end of the first year at drama school, I was excited to think about, this is where I'm going to head. I'll end up, Hollywood and all the stuff I need to get to. And I was in the first year, but I was top. I got to the top. And then the partying started to kick in the following year. I was starting to get jobs in bars, working in restaurants and things like that. And it just started taking over, and I was spending more time either getting pissed or with women, or finding myself in a relationship. And the relationship, I knew that I was tricky with the relationships. I found them. I didn't find them easy, and it brought out insecurities, and I was suddenly aware that I had these. A lot of it was jealousy that came out. I didn't understand why, and I could feel it. I was trying to work it all out. And very insecure, not so much needed a codependent, but it was this thing that I'd been through with my mother, trying to leave my father and always abandoning me and coming out with the suitcases and disappearing and then coming back, and me believing it was for... These sort of things started to come back. So that with alcohol, by the end of the second year, I was kind of halfway down the first year. And come the end of the term of my acting, I was like... I didn't really finish the course. I'd walked out. I'd been suspended once. I think you really need to understand what drama school's about as well. So this particular drama school, it did like the idea was to break you down, and you probably have it in the forces as well. You break you down and then you rebuild you. But when you do it with someone who is troubled anyway, breaking down is not a great thing. And I'm like, I've got a lot of stuff, a lot of hurt anyway. You don't need to do that. I need that. You need it the other way. It doesn't work for everybody. So by the end of it, I came out. I didn't really have the diploma, and I didn't know what to do. So I ended up, my uncle was working in De Vere Gardens, and Mum had got in contact with him. I've never really met him or seen him. And he sent me off to London, and I went to stay with him, and I started doing plays in the, like underground plays, and for nothing. And I met one of my greatest friends, Danny, who now teaches in London. He's got his own class up there, and we did this play together. And I suddenly started to connect with all these different people that are involved in the scene of theatre in places like Earl's Court and around that area. Then I started to get hold of the stage, and I got hold of the stage paper. I mean, a lot of this I'm trying to remember because it's quite difficult to keep it all, to break it all down because it's a long time ago now. But I ended up getting the stage paper, and I was just going for jobs. Found myself an agent, Barry Stacey. Hello, darling. Do you know any girls? Hags, or go down to the North Cot and do a bit of singing and dancing. Hags? No, I don't know any women. No hags, boys. They're tarts. And Barry was one of the great characters of my life, I think, and he set me up with things like thriller plays and pantomimes, and it's where I met Chris. What's Chris's last name? Who's an actor friend of mine, but he started to put me in touch with people that were doing things like what's the old term now? I'm trying to remember what it is. Repertory. So you do plays in the. You would rehearse a play in the morning, and then you'd do a play in the evening, and you swapped each week. I did about 3 or 4 weeks of that, odd terms, and then came back. And I did a few other plays. I really cut to the chase. This job came up was asking for a part to play Jesus, and I kind of always thought to myself, there are 2 different parts when I went to drama school, was either James Bond or Jesus. And I got this part, I couldn't believe it. And on a deep level, I think there was a lot of damage that I didn't know how far until later on, but I didn't know whether I'd be able to do this. And at that time, I was into Native American Indian history, and particularly like the Oglala Sioux, and I was reading a lot between the 1860s and the 1890s. And I was fascinated. And there was a guy called Black Elk Speaks. He wrote a book. And at the end of that book, he does this speech at the top of the Black Hills, and talking to the grandfather. And it's a beautiful speech, and it struck me. And I took that to this audition, and they loved it, and they gave me the job. And at this time, the drinking was still a lot part of my. It was playing games, and I'd already started on the coke as well, so the coke was still there, and it was playing games. It wasn't playing major games. It was just the drink, really, and a few spliffs. And I got the part, and then the beginning, it was 3 weeks, and it was just the Passion, which is the last bit until he's crucified. And although we were resurrecting at the end of it, and it just took it from Gethsemane around that time, and then took us through into the crucifixion and then the resurrection. And then I started that one year in 95, and by 2002, it was a 6-hour play. It was the life of Christ. And instead of 350 and 750, that was like 3,500. And that was some powerful stuff. And by the middle, especially that first day, those first 2 days that I did it in 95, and I came back and I just slumped into the sea. I thought, oh, fucking hell, that's a powerful arc. Whatever story you want to say about that one, that's a powerful story. And I wasn't, I wasn't someone. I always felt as though that Jesus for me it's an interesting character, and I wanted to know about him from an actor's perspective. And I ended up going to Israel a couple of times and trying to learn more about the land and the places he went. I remember traveling through a banana field to Capernaum, because apparently the hill was on the top with the Sermon on the Mount, and the direction I felt he would go was through these fields. I ended up kind of struggling through this banana field to get to Capernaum, and then going on to Galilee and lots of different places up there just to kind of get a feel for the land. And I kind of that first it was some pretty it was I say life-changing. I was just kind of I was starting to go, God, what is this all about? Do I need to believe in this? I did have a strong spiritual life anyway, to a degree. I was always, what is this about? And questioning stuff, this atheistic perspective. I was never 100%, because I think there was too much going on for me for it to sort of go out. So what the fuck's going on? And the only issue I had with Jesus and the Catholicism that was being fed to me was this. There was a lot of, I could feel the element of fear and this constant guilt that people felt. And I felt, well, I didn't relate to that too much, you know. I mean, I've struggled enough myself. And when I got to about the third year, I mean, there were posters on the tube and things like that. Things started to kick in with the drugs and the alcohol, and it got nasty. It got really nasty. And although I was doing a play, I was like doing the play in the afternoon and doing 6 hours, and the next thing I was in Brixton Hill in a crack house and, you know, doing crazy shit.
How did that escalate from having a few beers and a few joints?
Everything's, with this sort of thing, it's progressive. How does it escalate? It just does. You know, how are you going to, you know, you just, you know, once I finished, I get a load of money. I'm kind of always wanting to kind of change the way I feel. That's really what it's about. And so when I go away, I end up on the piss. And if I end up on the piss, you've already had the cocaine. The next thing, I was doing market stalls in London with Karen, who was my second son's mum, and she was sending him stuff. And I started being introduced to lots of different people. I had mates of mine banging up, smacking the back of their vans, and, you know, doing loads of Charlie before then. And then meeting some girl and finding, have you ever done crack? And no, I haven't. And then going back to my flat and doing it. And it was just, I mean, that's powerful stuff, especially that first time. And when you've done that one, it's just like, my God, you're going to do it again. If you're someone like me, you're going to do it again. And so you've just taken a choice. I was splitting up for the relationship anyway because of the alcohol, infidelity, things like that. You know, I wasn't faithful at that time. And it just started to get worse and worse and worse. And in the end, about 2001, 2002, I turned up. They knew I had problems. The girlfriend at the time introduced me to AA, and I started to get on and off clean, and I got out of my head on site where this place was, and it went tits up. And the guy that owned it, the guy that owned the land, it was a big estate. It was this, well, he probably was a billionaire at the time, but he owned a massive estate in Surrey that ran it. It was the guy. It was an open air promenade on his land, on his estate. He had a couple of lakes, and he kind of said, "You need help, Simon?" And I kind of went, "Yeah, I probably do." And he said, "He needs to go." He introduced me to Chanaklau in Bosnia, in Medjugorje, where all the guys, remember the fighting that was out there, and I mean, all these guys were heroin addicts mainly. And there was an Irish one in Ireland as well that was there, which were a lot of the boys that were doing all the gangs were doing Charlie. A lot of them had died, and the ones that didn't were in this place, Catholic retreat. So he ended up sending me there, and I ended up out in Bosnia, and I did roughly about 6 months, hardcore banging, you know, washing your clothes in ice and getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and praying every day, and then doing I knew the Lord's Prayer and the Mary stuff in Latin, going up mountains at 5 o'clock in the morning with these lads.
Hard routine.
100 of them, sorry?
Hard routine.
Yeah, man, it was what I needed. It was good. Yeah. It was really good for me. But in the end, it was... I started thinking about, you know, a pipe and a blowjob. I mean, what can I say? And then it started to ferment, and it was just going off. And by the end of it, then what you do is you start having an argument with someone on the top of the hill. What you're doing is sticks. We used to bake our own bread and do that sort of thing. Next thing, I've walked out, and I've literally hitched all the way outside of Yugoslavia. I had a girlfriend in Trieste, paediatrician girl, was a beautiful love story. And she flew me back. The next thing, I got off the plane, straight up Brixton Hill, straight into a crack house.
After doing how long?
That was 6 months there. But, it was the power of the addiction. I mean, I've gone into places, because I bought a flat at that point. I bought my London flat, which I lost due to addiction as well. You know, it's $500,000 because then I ended up on the street at one point. And where are we? When we sent me back, I'm just trying to think what I did there. Yeah, I did that. Oh yeah, I was on the landing, in one of my landings, and they were because they were popping up. Crack houses would pop up all the time. I was on Brixton Hill, and there was one house down there that was set up on my landing. So I'd popped up there and popped through the envelope and said, "Look, could I have something?" Yeah, he gave me it. Went into my room, banged up a pipe, did a thing, and it was bad. And I collapsed. And I collapsed in, I had a balcony, I collapsed and by my bed, because it was that powerful. And it just was shit. And I crawled outside. I said, "Oh, get the fucking rain out," like that. I needed, it was raining just to cool me down. I thought, you've got to get outside, because you can't, you just got to move. So I got up and got out of the flat, went downstairs and just walked round the block for about 15 minutes. And I just started to come round and started to feel better, but I was all over the shop. Made my way back in the flat, sat down on the bed again, started to feel good, breath. Start to breathe and start to feel okay. As soon as I felt okay, I got up, I went out the flat, down to the same door and got it again. That's addiction. Thinking it would be different, that's addiction. That's how crazy it is.
It's so hard to sit here and listen to this and understand. And it's absolutely, because it's a different world, certainly from what I've grown up in. I've had my fair share of problems, but not fucking that.
Mate, I've been doing, there's a girl, Manny, she was a fucking poet. I'd say, "What you been doing?" I mean, "I've been playing Jesus." She said, "Fucking hell." She used to do these poems for me. And I remember doing, in my flat, Sermon on the Mount in front of bollock naked, off my fucking tits. So she goes, "Fucking hell, Si, that were brilliant. Fucking do it again, you're fucking great, Si. I can see you fucking hell, you'll be a fucking star." I was fucking, when I think back on the shit. Yeah. And in these places, these guys were, you know, I remember, because they always thought I was a policeman. You know, is he a fed? Because I had long hair, and they went in there. But as soon as he saw me doing a pipe, I fucking ain't a fed. Do you know, or I'd get into the antics. I've been in kitchens with all the stones out, these 20 stones, like piles of them and things like that, and just having a riot with these, you know, yardies or gangsters in these places. I mean, I've had times when I've come out of, I nearly got killed one night, and because they really thought I was, they got suspicious. And when you've done enough coke, the paranoid gets out of order. And it's a bit of a story, but I had, what was it we were doing? Oh, that was it. I used to go and, should I tell you about it? It's a bit fucking full on, but it's, there was downstairs, I used to always get my gear, because the reason I left Brixton and stayed in Exeter was that whenever I went back to Brixton, I'd always pick up. So I could be clean for a little bit of a while, but I always told myself, but at the back of your mind with addiction, you know what, you shouldn't go there. If you really want to stop, just don't go there, because you're familiar with everybody and everything. And I knew the flat downstairs, Doobie. And I used to go to Doobie and do, "Say, man, brethren, yeah, right, come on in, no." We go and sit down, and he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Doobie, can we get some gear in that?" And Babs, his sister, used to be, "Say, man, maybe you want a 20, me get you a 20. So I'd have a couple of, I used to always end up there, I'd have a couple there. There used to be, a girl would come in at some point, and it would always motivate me. And this time, I'd come back from playing Jesus, and I had like 500-600 quid on me in cash. I said, "Look, I've got some money." And he said, "Man, we all right, we'll go down the road, say, man." So we go down to these flats, these block of flats, and we turn up these stairs, and Doobie always used to set me up. And there's a girl outside, and she has this quick chat to her. He says, "Simon, he's got some money, he's going to do something." The door opens, and this geezer with this flat top looks out the door, and I can see him looking. I'm going, fucking hell, he looks a bit sketchy. And we walk in, and we go and sit down, and I'm looking around me. I'm the only white guy that's there with the long fucking hair, looking around me going, "Okay, that's all right. I don't really care," which I never did. I was just like, "I'm here for a hit. That's right, I'm already there anyway. Let's get on with it. This guy with a cap comes in and looks around and goes, some white boy in here tonight gonna die. I'm looking going, well, that must be me then. Right? That's right. He goes, yo, get up, man. Oh, no, he wasn't. He was like his boxer. He went, no, fucking get up. And another weasel came out beside me. Yeah, get him in there, box. Stab him, stab him. Threw me into the bathroom. Got in the bathroom. And he looks at me. He goes, right, got any fucking money? Oh, no, sorry, mate. I'm fucking forgetting about this. So I'd gone in there. When I first gone in there, and I saw Doobie chatting to him. And I'd gone, this is me, this is clarity as well. I've gone, this ain't fucking right. And I've gone up and said to guys, can I go to the toilet, please? And he went, yeah, it's right there, white boy, it's in the toilet in there. Like, give me some, right, thanks, cheers. Got in the toilet, I thought, this is sketchy. I pulled out the money, I stuck 80 quid in my pocket, and the 420 or whatever is down my sock, because I fucking felt I was going to get mugged. When I came out, sat down, he comes in, he says, I'm white boy, going to die in here tonight. And I went, okay, that's me, get up. So he got up, shoved me in the bathroom, got out this, he didn't have a knife then, but he just said, empty your pockets. So I took out the 80 quid, gave me 80 quid, is that it? I said, yeah, well, what do you want? He said, give us your phone. Gave me his phone, opened the back of the phone, took out the battery and gave me the SIM card. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll have that then. Finished with it, he said, going to stab him? No, he goes, fuck off before I kill you. So they just put me outside. Now, I don't know whether he kind of, I don't know. I could have died that way. But I sometimes feel there's a quality about me a lot of the time that, not all the time, but you don't, I'm all right. I'm a nice guy.
He didn't want to kill you, yeah.
He didn't want to fucking kill me. So he throws me out. Another guy comes out, robs my bag, takes my cards. I walk down the road, and I've got halfway down the road, I've gone, pulled out the 400 and stuck it in my fucking pocket, cleared the cards, gone, you wankers, and gone and stayed in the hotel, cursing myself. I've got myself into trouble. Episode 1. 3 months later, I thought I'd got clean because that was pretty hardcore. I go back, I do another doobie, say, hey man, me alright, yo, get up. I said, get some gear, then I'm like, oh yeah, right, let's go out again. Right, we end up in another fucking estate.
So you're going back to the same bloke who took you into that?
Yeah, no, I've got to, no. Fucking yeah, no, end up going up, which is 3 months later. I've gone to see Doobie, we go to a different flat. I get in the flat, I open the door. That's when I look down the hall and I could see this guy walks up. I went, fuck me, that's him. And I was with this girl, I was going, oh, Jesus, I don't want to fucking do this. So I said to her, look, you get it. I've got to fuck off because I can't see him. So I've gone down to the stairwell, given the money. She said, don't worry, I'll be all right. Don't worry, I'll come back in a minute. We'll have it sorted. Yeah, just stay there, just give us money. Fucking hell. So I give them the money. Off she fucking goes. And I sat on this stairwell. And all I hear is, slow fucking steps coming the stairwell. I've gone, oh, fucking hell. And I've already smoked loads. I've had lots. So I've been high for about 8 hours. And as he comes around the corner, it's fucking him. And he's going, you fucking know me. I'm like, I try to step away. Yeah, but no, I don't have to, whatever. And I was so high and so fucking freaked out and frightened, I kind of collapsed. He fucking catches me. He goes, you're all right, mate. You're all right, mate. You're all right, mate. Safeguard. Puts me in the corner. I end up having a chat with him for about an hour about his brother, because it's typical. So I want to get into a conversation. I'm going to get a nice story. We talk about prison. We talk about his brother. We talk about racism. We talk about fucking everything. I end up having the whole weekend with him. Fucking doing $3,000. My money, that 500, fuck it. He had $3,000 by the end of it. And we ended up in this last place. And Manny was with us that time. She's talking to a fucking lamp for about half an hour. And I said, oh, mate, we're talking to the fucking lamp for. Listen, fucking hell, leave me alone. And then I remember Boxer saying to me, Si, you got to get out, you're in danger. And there were some gnarly geezers in my periphery to the right. And Manny's just left. She's heard about it. She's gone. He's gone. And I'm on my fucking own. So I've got up, walked to the door, just opened the door, looking around, see if anyone's there. Went down the stairwell, where the glass door was, where they're open. I could see figures around, looking around. And I'll tell you what, Ollie, I don't know what the score is with all this stuff. I felt, you're all right, son, you're okay. And it was literally like I can't explain it. It was like a field. I thought, no one's going to touch me. And I walked out that door right through them, and I could feel them on either side, and no one touched me. And I got to the bus station, and he was sat there, boxing. I said, fucking hell, box, yeah, do you fancy another one? He said, you fucking crazy cunt. You were going to die then, mate. Fuck off home. So I walked through Clapham Common and on my knees going, oh, God, you've got to sort me out and all this shit. So some of the crack stuff was, shall we say, fucking heavy. Yeah, so there were loads of stories like that, man. I did fucking know.
Where was the turning point?
Okay, this is a tough one, really. So the tough one was that I'd smoked that much over about 3 days. I became psychotic, and I was going out, and I could have killed someone, put it that way. I'd lost it, and I went outside, looking to see what I could find. And I came round after about 20 minutes and I was in shock. I thought, I've lost my marbles here. This is fucking, I'm psychotic. I'm fucking losing it. And I was so freaked out about how my mind was working at that time. I said, this is it. I've got to do something about it. I was frightened, really properly frightened. And I started doing, there was a dependency course. And then this was in London. I thought, I can't stay here anymore. I've got to get out. So I went down to Exeter. I've got an old mate of mine that lived here. I did some plays actually when I was down there. I did a few shows for him. And I got into AA when I was down here. And I met Spiritual Phil, who was my first real proper sponsor, who I was sober with for about 16 months. And while I was sober, I was doing security work for the DEFRA building. And it dawned on me, and I thought, you know what? I don't know if I want to act anymore. I don't know if it's after that, because I was doing BBC, when I was doing BBC like Born and Bred, and I did a few episodes there, and I was doing crack in the fucking car park. I mean, Jesus Christ. And my father would come to see me, because he hadn't seen me, he was in Leeds and that, and I couldn't see him because I was doing that. You know, and he came to the car park to leave, and, you know, that was another thing. I just thought, where am I going? You know, where am I going? It's death and misery, but before you get there, you just wreck everything. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to travel. I want to get on the road. So I had the flat in London. I still had the flat in London, and I got some money out on it. And basically, I got 12 grand out. So I booked this ticket to. I was going to go to first to Delhi for a couple of weeks and a month, and then I was going to go to Hanoi, and I was going to work my way around and go right around the globe.
Is this your way of rehabbing yourself?
Yeah. So I get 12 grand, right? I go to fucking Brixton.
Yes.
I ended up there, mate. Over that, and it was only 2 weeks. It was something like 5 grand I'd done. I went, shit. And I was working on a building site at that time for a mate of mine. And I remember him saying to me, Toby said to me, fucking Si, just get on the plane. And another friend said to me, you can't do India in a few weeks, you need to do 6 months. So I cancelled the round the world ticket and I just made Delhi. And that was it. I knew my visa was a year, or was it 6 months of that? But it was 6 months, so I'm gone. So I just got on the fucking plane. I got on the plane, I was getting there, I was a bit sketchy, I was coming down from shit. And when I got out, I went into Delhi, stayed to Delhi probably about 3 or 4 days, got Delhi belly down in Agra, ended up fucking stuff coming out of both ends at the same time, in the toilet going, what the fuck's going on? After I finished that, a guy came into the room and said, oh, you need to do, don't worry, we give you intravenous, it's terrible. He kept doing that shit on me. And the thing is, I was in this hotel, and he kept saying, this is basically to do with dehydration. So if you're dehydrated, apparently you take hold of that. And the slower it goes down, the more dehydrated you're doing. So he was touching me and doing this. And I was going, what are you doing? He goes, no, you need intravenous. And like that. I said, mate, it's all right. Just give us a couple of pills. I'm all right. Because it was going to cost 5,000 rupees for him to do it. I went, no. You know, I've had so much of it with Brixton and all the other stuff. I can see it. You're only getting a con. So I stayed around there, got well, and I got out and went into the Taj Mahal, which I had to see, which is, you got to see that place, man. That is something else. And I was coming back, and I could see there was a motorbike shop. And all my life I'd had dreams about motorbikes. And I looked around me, and there was the main road on the left-hand side, and it was just full of anything and everything. And I was just like, fuck me, I can get one of them, and no one's going to give a fucking shit. So I walked into there. I had no license, and I said, how much are the bikes? And eventually, after a bit of time, he sold me a 1948. I just got on it. And I had my bags in the thing. It was a rucksack, stuck it on the back. And then it was a baptism of fire down to Pushkar, Jaipur from Agra. I was all over the shop, just learning how to do the traffic and the beeping. It was full on. But it was brilliant. You know, I just fucking loved it. I was so impassioned by it. I was so thrilled. I was really properly happy.
You're clean at this point.
Yeah, I wasn't. No, I had a few drinks. But I mean, that first 3.5 years was opium, and you know, I got into opium and the booze and things like that. And there was some pretty hairy stories there of driving the bike through the mountains and fucking falling on the tank like that. Mate of mine watching me going, and then coming around, he said, God must have been with you, Simon. There's something with you, because how the fuck you came out of that? I literally went down, and I was doing that at the time, so you know, a little bit of a flat top, just and came out. I got the bike. And ended up down in Pushkar, changed it because the bike wasn't very good. Met some guys, started to meet people who are involved in the biker community kind of thing, who are doing their stuff. And then hit the first trip I did to Goa. But at that point I was still drinking, and I ended up just staying and getting down to Mumbai and nearly losing it in a hotel. And I had to pick myself up, drag myself out like I've done a few times, because they were giving me, these guys in the hotel weren't giving me good stuff. And went to Thailand and did a bit of a nonsense over there, and then came back to Thailand. And I spent really 7 years, and I went back once to do a play, to play Jesus again, in a particular play, in a singing one this time, 15 foot in the air, fucking, oh no, praise the Lord and pass the biscuits. And I was strapped. I remember passing out at the top of that one. It's very convoluted, sorry, it doesn't make too much sense. But the point being that I just went, I never want to stop doing this. I never want to. It was the first time in my life. I know I'm in a bubble when I'm in if you like, you know, you're free, but you're free. You've basically got money and you can do what you want in India. And it's all right to be me. I'd never felt that before. That was interesting. So immediately with India, they just accepted me. That's Simon. It was just this thing. I always found that we do have a lot of judgment. There's a lot of judgment, and we judge each other, and I think really too much to an extent. There are aspects to people's things that they do, especially when it comes to things like sexual misconduct and violence and women abuse, things like that. That's shitty stuff and needs to be addressed. But just for your eccentricities, or you fuck things up a few little times, you know, that's okay. You know, and I could sense it, and I was like, wow, and it was like, well, my eyes watered, you know, it was with gratitude, and I'm riding the bike at the same time going, this is just fucking incredible. You know, where are you going to find this in the world? And India's it's so different. It's literally like walking, well, it is on the same planet, but it's that different. The contrasts are incredible. And Indian people on the whole are very, very peaceful people and giving, and will give their all to you. You know, they're two families that I live with, and you know, are very special people in my life. And, you know, the way they treat, I'm like a family member with Takeshwar and with Pioa. So I kind of spent the first 3.5 years just getting wank and doing crazy shit on the bike and going through the mountains, through the Himalayas, and then traveling down south and to different ashrams. And I've got to say this at the beginning, because the thing is about Jesus, it kind of ignited stuff with me, because I always had a spiritual life. But I was always concerned with, you could say the dogma, but this guilt and fear and the idea of this devil, this like hardcore entity that was like, my God, I'm trying to line that up with a loving God and all forgiving and loving God. And it never worked out for me. So, you know, I was aware that there were saints still in India, and this idea of guruship and looking at gurus and things like that. And I got sober. I was with... I can't remember what I did. Oh, yeah, in Thailand. I got sober in Thailand. I went out to Thailand, met some American guys in AA. Ended up going out there, and I was still drinking. I know I was in trouble in Thailand. And my Indian friends I'd made at that time, I said, look, I just need to get out there. And I'd stopped drinking. I'd gone for a meditation because when I got to Rajasthan, I built my own house. I built my own little jobbly, and I had all these handcraft bed, jobbly, my motorbike be at the end of the bed, literally open the barn door, fucking ride out and then ride back in again. And it was idyllic for me. But I was drinking, and there was this little girl. She was one of the girls that lived in the village, Shima. She used to come in and sweep and clean. And this particular day, she'd come in and she just picked up all the bottles, small bottles of whiskey, and just carried them on her back. I could hear them. I just, the shame, the fucking fucking hell. Mate might phone me, says, do you want to do Vipassana in Varna? I think, well, not Varna, what's it called? Karna, I think it's Karna. And I was so fit, I knew it was 10-day meditation. No one was going to talk to me. I didn't have to talk to anybody else. Like, yeah, fucking perfect. So literally got on the end of the bed, stuck a little bag on the back and just rode through the Thar Desert up to Haryana, drinking all the time, trying to sweat all my stuff out, which I did by the time I got there. Went into Vipassana the next day, and I did 10 days. And it was remarkable. It wasn't kind of this awakening white light, but this sense of peace that I got from it when I came out, this real deep, and it's peace, but it's also contempt, happiness as well, on a very deep level. Not to worry, because you are very present after you do something like that. Meditation is about being present. And once you become that and you forget about the mind, which is all to do with this stuff, talking about mental health, this present stuff, when you do fully become present, Eckhart Tolle, Ramana Maharshi, all the great people that talk about presence and being present, how to become present, stop thinking, that kind of happened to me in that moment. I wasn't realised to become or whatever, things like that. I just felt good. I felt really, really good in a very deep way that I'd never felt before. Fucking hell, I leave the fucking place, I go back to Pihar, there's a geezer at the back of the fucking cafe, he's got a bottle of beer and a quart of whiskey. And I went, oh, that looks good. So next thing I know, I've done that. They're getting scared because they know how I drink. And I'm going to Thailand anyway, and they just kind of dropped me off near the airport, shit-faced. I ended up getting on the plane, filled up this bottle. How are you getting a water bottle? It's got whiskey colour in it. Dropped a couple of Valium. Jumped on the plane. I remember the plane was pretty empty. There were 3 people on that seat up there, and I was sitting down there just smiling, going, what, mate? Next thing I remember is waking up and lying down. I could feel the wheels hit the tarmac. I go, fucking hell. And I've got up, looked around, and I've noticed they're in my seat, or the one down before me, and I'm in their seat. I have no idea what's happened. All I get is this synchronised, filthy look. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. As the plane lands, I walk out, and the air hostess looking about, goodbye, Mr. Hemingway, tuck. You can see it was like shit. I get into Bangkok, circumvent. I go into this hotel, I buy a couple of yabba. Instead of smoking them, I eat them. Thai whiskey, and in the morning, I've done it so many times. I crawled out, went to the nearest email shop, typed in AA, found out where the next meeting was, and got into a meeting. And that's when I met Mike. And I did the first week, and he just looked after me. And I had, a few years. That was the second time I started to get sober, and that's when I went back and started to kind of clean things up. And after about a year, I spent a lot of time in Calcutta as well. I like Calcutta. Well, a lot of time. I spent a few times in Calcutta. And one of the times in Calcutta, I went to the Andaman Islands, picked the bike up, stuck it on a boat with all these guys up a gangplank, stuck the bike on the boat, tied it to one of their poles, and then went off to the Andaman and rode around there. But yeah, another tricky story there. But when I came back, I can't remember the time I was sober. It's difficult trying to get the timings right because I forget so much. But I remember praying and going, look, can you just get me someone to pull me in the right direction? Because I'd love a teacher. I need to get better. I can't live like this all the time, in and out. And I mean, it's all very good and that, but I just want something to kind of just fulfill me in some way, or to answer a few questions. So a teacher. I come back to Calcutta, and I picked the bike up, and I used to stay in this place called the Shilton. It was like one of these 1930s hotels. Fucking beautiful it was, but it was still much the same as the 20s. They've changed them a lot now, and they've turned them into, they've kind of modernised them, which is a real shame, because you had the old 1920s switches, and the rooms, how dark they were, and the frames, and it was all like as it was back then, which was really cool. And I always had the same room. Anyway, I parked the bike up, and as I looked to my right, passing the gate was this like waft, this silver dude with the hair, this elegant guy just walking past. But who the fuck's that? Anyway, I didn't think about it, and I just put the bike on, but it lodged in my memory. I go out, I go to the internet shop, get in the internet shop, I sit down, he's fucking there in front of me, and I'm going, oh, that's pretty cool. He starts typing away, and then he must have deleted everything, because he'd been there an hour, and he starts to get really angry and starts tapping the computer, gets up in a huff and walks off, and I thought, oh, maybe it's not him, I'm not going to deal with that. I finished my thing about half an hour later. I go back to my room, and as I'm there, he's there in my hotel trying to find a room at the inn. And I've looked at him, I thought, it's 3 times now. There's something, who is this guy? And I said, do you need a room? I've got a spare bed. I always had a spare bed, 2 beds in my room. I said, you can have one. He said, oh, thank you very much. I said, that's all right. Anyway, he moves in the room. I learned his name was Jiku-san. And Jiku-san was a Chilean Zen master at that point. But he'd lived as a Baba on the river, the Narmada River, which I still want to do. If I've got the energy, I'm going to do that 3.5-year walk. I'm going to walk it. That's really what I want to do. I've looked into it. It's called the Parayama. It's the walking yogi. And I definitely want to do that. Anyway, he had done that and lived 5 years on the Narmada River. And he told me some great stories, man. Some great stories of being on a pool and, you know, he'd been there 2 weeks around this pool, and it was a dive into the water, and he was about to dive over this water, and this dog came around him, was sniffing around, and went to jump over and came across him, jumped over, and a snake came out and took the dog. And he said that snake was waiting for him. And he said sometimes things like that, animals will offer themselves. I don't know about that, but that's what he said. Anyway, 5 years into being on a number, he falls in love with a French lady. And goes back to England because that's where he worked. He was worked for National Geographic. I forgot. He's a journalist of sorts, a photographer. Anyway, they spend 7 years together, and they have a baby, and they call their little girl Narmada after the river.
And not after the dog.
Not after the dog. Poor old dog, though, man. Jeez, I would have jumped in, tried to save the dog. I don't know about you. I'd attack the snake.
Must be some snake.
Yeah, it must. Yeah. Sure. Well, you know, it's a story like that. Well, they can get pretty big, I suppose. But he, anyway, he splits up with this woman. She falls out. She ends up finding someone else, and he's brokenhearted. So he starts working for National Geographic. Decides to go to Japan and take photographs of Zen monasteries, and ends up walking into the first one and staying 10 years. So he comes out this Zen master. I just got to know him when his daughter was 21. She had just visited him, and he'd taken her around, and he just brought her back from the Narmada River she was named after. I just wanted to show her some of the places. And because he, as a Baba, he'd seen all these different places, I was like, wow. I said, I lived at that time in a place called Kurukshetra, where the Mahabharata, the famous battle that had happened, where Krishna talks, the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, which is a story, which is a dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna before the battle. And it's a really good one. I mean, I can't remember all the details, but you need to read it. It's only that big. He said, I'd love to come and see you. I'd love to come and see you. And at this time, he said, yeah. I said, I tour around him. You can come and I'll take you for a tour with a family I live with up there. And he's on the computer at this time. And I see Baba's, I haven't got Baba's face from him. I see Baba's face. And I'm going, who's that? And I was 5 years into Native American Indian history. I told you about the 1860s. That was very strong for me, and it got me to play Jesus and all that stuff. He looks like an American Indian. So that's Babaji. Now, I haven't told you about this first one. When I got out there, I was with this heroin dealer who was a guy called Niels, and this real Jewish gem dealer, you can make it up, are at this table, and they both said to me, literally just about at the same time, the book you need to read is Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda Paramahansa. He said, that is the book of books. He said, like the Beatles loved it. I wish I'd been to their temple. He said, read that book. So I got my copies everywhere. I bought myself a copy, and I spent 10 months with that book because I'm dyslexic to a bit, and I had to keep reading over and over things. That book, in a way, again, had a massive change and effect on my life. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And it was like a study program over 10 months. So Babaji is a very important character. He's a causal saint, essentially, that comes through the astral level into the gross body existence and teaches, and he pops around. So I'd already known about Babaji and was struck by him anyway, at that point leading up to meeting this guy. So when he said Babaji, I was like, bloody hell. I was like, wow, okay. He said, I'm going to this wedding. He's got a wedding up there. Now, to be honest with you, when I looked at it, I said, I'm doing so much. I'm going to ride the bike back to Rajasthan. I don't know if I'm doing it. I'm going to go to Pirwa and see some people up there. So I just took off, and I didn't think that much of it. 3 weeks later, he's phoned me, and he's coming to Kudak, etc. So he turns up. We take him on a tour. The family really, really love him, and they look after him and take him around these tours and, looking at certain landmarks with the Bhagavad Gita. And he says, I'm going to this wedding. I said, well, I've got to change my visa. So in the pool, because I used to ride to the pool. And he says, yeah, I'll give you a lift. I said, yeah, I'll give you a lift. If you want, you can go up there because it's quite close. It's in the foothills. And all I remember is him on the back. I need to stop. And the journey would take me half a day, or best part of a day, took about 2.5. We had to stay over, bless him. Well, he's 60. And we get to the ashram and finally get up there. And he gets on. It was like.
It's like me getting out of bed in the morning, mate.
It was funny because he moved around the front of the fucking bike and walked up, this dignified gentleman, could hardly get round. And this old grammar school teacher came out. And she said, oh, what are you doing here, darling? And she was smitten by him. And I was like, all right, you two look good together. Yeah, see you later. She goes, what are you doing, darling? I said, I'm just going to get a visa. Is there any chance I could stay tonight? I'm tired. And she said, this is Navaratri. This is the Durga festival. When do you change your visa? I said 3 weeks. She goes, this takes 2 weeks. Come on in. So I went in, and I ended up just going, okay, let's go for it. Now, I'd spent time in Bosnia and all that stuff for the 6 months. And I just throw myself into it. Had my hair shaved, got my name, Shivananda, got some mantras. And it was powerful. It was powerful. And that changed. And that story with him now and Babaji is still there. I'm not a great devotee, mate. I'm not full power. I have his image. I often can sense him. This time I told you I was out there recently. I went to the Navaratri festival there. And when I've done 2 weeks, I kind of leave it and I come away and I can feel his presence. That's what I feel. That's what I do it. But I'm not the greatest of devotees, like I said. And I still kind of struggle a little bit, but I feel that the spiritual experiences of my life have kind of grounded me a lot and helped me a lot.
Sounds it.
But also because I'm older now, man. I'm 60 now, man. Do you know what I mean? I think you get through things. I was talking to a young guy today because I talk about addiction all the time. You kind of, if you can get through to stuff, it's not always the case, but I would say majority, correct me if I'm wrong. But, I've done it. I don't really want to do it anymore, I don't really want to get out. I don't find any joy. And if I do these sort of things, I do them on my own. I can't really do them with other people. So, getting older and just getting through life and keeping alive and looking after yourself and making sure you eat and getting down the gym and doing these sort of things.
And this is it. This is where we met, down the gym.
Yeah.
And then when we started having conversations and you started talking about the spiritual sort of healing that you've been through, and then I was aware of your story, not in the depth that you just told me there, which is fucking mind blowing and it's almost left me speechless. But you've come out the other side of it, and we have conversations now about deadlifts, sled pushes, and getting on the
I love
bike.
the deadlift, mate.
Yeah,
that sorts me out every time.
So if we, it's a remarkable story, and I'm sure that's just a small percentage of it.
Did that make sense? All that?
Yeah, of course it does, mate. And this is the thing.
I was very nervous then. I was aware of myself because it's off the cuff. And all
anyone listening to that there'll be people that relate to this, and this is the thing. It's like I've been through struggles, but not anywhere near to this. But this is the people that I speak to on this podcast, and the people that I speak to in life and in coaching and in my business. Struggles are very subjective to you. I speak about this thing. I went into rehabilitation in Hasler, which is the military rehabilitation, which ended my military career. I went in with a bad ankle and a bit of a bad back and a bad hip, but it just fucked my head up. It was subjective to me. It didn't matter if I hadn't had my leg blown off or anything like that, because every adversity it's individual, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that story you told me is just like, it's like, that's mad. And you must be a cat with 9 lives.
No, I would say so. I'd like to think so. I hope a few more. I don't know. We'll see how it goes because they're still out there. But I'll tell you one story. I just wanted to share with you because I know we don't know what time we got, but when I was playing Jesus, I fell off the cross. And it's one of the most remarkable times. And we'd done 3 years at that point, and I kept the same rope. And there's 3,500 people, and they're hoisting me up. And what I had to do is I had to be strapped to this piece of wood that was about that long. And then they stap against this plinth. There was a pulley, and they, and I, so I went up. And this particular day, it was a Thursday performance. He hoisted me up, dear Nick, who's still one of my best friends, got to the very top, and all I felt was dunk. I was like, you're fucking kidding me. I knew what it was, and it was like the moment was lasting longer than it really should. I was like, and then it went, boom, fuck. I went down, I hit the tarmac. Like, do you ever see the Strongbow advert where you get the arrow goes, bow, wow, wow, wow. I hit the ground like that. I went bang, and I pulled the muscles in and went, oh, fuck. Jaw, timber, bang, hit the deck. And I mic'd up, remember, when there's 3,500
performance.
Yeah, mic'd up with this. I'm going, fucking hell, what the fuck happened there? Gee. Now, I'm not aware that everyone, 3,500 people, including most of them are kids, have fucking listened to Jesus swearing his tits off. And all I remember is the producer coming onto site and looking at me going, Simon, you think all right? Simon, all right? I went, and I just came on, oh, shit. Said, Peter, yeah, I'm all right, I'm okay. So, do you think you can carry on? Of course I can carry on. So he gets me up, they get me up, they put me on this plinth, stuck me up there, leave me against this fucking pole, right? So I'm on the top of it, got myself steady, everyone's helped me. Father, into thy hands I commit my spirit. Yes! Oh, crowd gets up, and all I hear is, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And I tell you what, the weird thing was like, perspective, I was going, Jesus, crucifixion, standing ovation. Well, fucking hell, man. That was just like, what the fuck? And for the rest of the play, every time I came on, well, I was resurrected, because I was resurrected. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. It was mental. But this thing about, Jesus having a standing ovation, I felt, no, that's not right. What are you doing?
Well, there we go, mate. I'll tell you what, that's a good ending note for us. But look, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And like I said, when I met you a couple of years ago, you helped me when we had that first conversation in the gym, because it was shortly after my dad had died. And then remember we had a conversation as well. I was in a bit of a dark place, and I called you up once, and we had a few beers on the phone for a bit of a natter, which it helps. Passing and things like that. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's down to your own beliefs. You can't force it on anybody like that. But I tell you, when my mum died, I watched my mum die. I watched my sister die of alcoholism. She was 49. She died in my arms and shook herself to death. Broke my fucking heart. I saw my mum die of cancer at 58. She died, and chemotherapy fucking killed her. Now, there were times when I got my flat. I needed to rent my flat out to go to India. And I was driving to my security job one time. I thought, fucking hell, am I going to trust someone who can look after my flat? And I tell you not, my mother's voice said, don't worry, darling, you can trust her. Clear as crystal. That girl, Tracy, was in my flat the entire time I was in India, 5 years, and never missed a beat. Paid me every time. And I remember that. Now, I know, when I look into things like near-death experiences, which are really important and valid, and out-of-body experiences, explore them, and people poo-poo them, like, the Richard Dawkins, and they always talk about, oh, no, it's just the way the brain works. And is it? Have you had a near-death experience? You haven't got anything to say. If you've had a near-death experience, say something. But otherwise, it's pure arrogance. Because these people like Dr. Eben Alexander were neurologists, atheists, but borderline, had these experiences. He's not a neurologist anymore. He's touring the world and talking about his experience. So these people always talk about the fact that those who are important to you, those that are very close to you, are always with you. All right.
Yeah, so really, there's much more to be discovered there. And I think when you look at things, especially the subject of near-death experiences, you're talking about people who are learned, who are scientists, who are atheists. And their whole reality is changed, subject to that experience, completely changed, revolutionized. So there is something that we do need to kind of be more open to in a lot of ways. And I personally feel those loved ones, the ones that you care about, when they pass, are always close to you. Always. That's how I feel anyway. So don't stop worrying about it. You can, if you want to connect it and be open to it, they'll show themselves in different ways.
Powerful, mate. Listen,
Right.
it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed listening to you. I really have, and I'm sure people will take value from that.
Wow.
Like I said, we can. I think that's probably just 1% of it. So
Yeah, I didn't know where to start. I mean, I went all over the place. The thing is, it's very difficult because you know, the time, you know, all those, I can't log it. It was 60 years. A lot of it's my early 20s, a lot of my teens, and so I don't remember it. I tried putting it all in. There's so much for me, anyway.
Honestly,
thank you.
Appreciate you coming on, mate.
No, thank you
And,
very much. Thanks
yeah,
for having me.
Thank
It's
you
really,
very much.
no,
Cheers,
a real
Simon.
honour. Thank you.
Top man.